Carried.
Resuming debate, the honourable member for Davenport.
Here, here.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As always, it's a true pleasure for me to rise in this venerable House to speak on the opposition motion on behalf of the residents of my riding of Davenport. I would like to state that I neither agree with the premise of the Conservative motion before us today, nor the ask of the motion. Our federal government is doing all we can to support our most vulnerable in Canada and those most impacted by inflation and the rising costs of living. I'm also a firm believer in carbon pricing and that our federal government needs to continue to move as urgently as possible to meet our Paris Accord targets and our net zero target by 2050. Madam Speaker, climate change is accelerating faster than has been predicted, and it would be the height of irresponsibility for our federal government, indeed any level of government in any province or territory across Canada, to slow down our efforts toward achieving net zero by 2050. If anything, I think we need to double down on our efforts and be very clear in showing our progress to Canadians. Madam Speaker, let me speak a bit more to the issue of the rising cost of living in Canada. It is indeed a serious concern. As we well know, the pandemic has caused financial challenges and uncertainty for many Canadians. And we also know that inflation, a global phenomenon which is a lingering result of the pandemic and exacerbated by worldwide events, is making life harder for a lot of Canadians. The job market is very strong and businesses are doing well, but we also know that despite this, it is harder for a lot of Canadians to pay their bills at the end of the month. And that is why the federal government's support programs continue to be so important. We have an affordability plan that includes many important measures. This is support to the most vulnerable people in our communities to help them at a time when the cost of living is a real challenge for many Canadians. For example, the Enhanced Canada Worker Benefit puts up to $2,400 more into the pockets of low-income families starting this year. This results in more than $1.7 billion in new support this year alone and will make life more affordable for our lowest paid workers. Madam Speaker, we've also increased old age security by 10% for seniors 75 and older, which will provide up to an additional $800 for more than 3 million seniors over the first year. We have signed agreements on early learning and childcare with every single province and territory. This is to achieve the goal of an affordable, universal system of early learning and childcare, so that every mother who wants to go to work has the comfort of knowing that our children are being well cared for and well taught. Furthermore, benefits including the Canada Child Benefit, the GST credit, the Canada Pension Plan, old age security, and the Guaranteed Income Supplement are indexed to inflation, as is the federal minimum wage, which we increased to $15 an hour and indexed it to inflation, making it now $15.55 an hour. And just last week, Madam Speaker, the federal government tabled two important pieces of legislation to address commitments we've made. Bill C-30 would double the goods and services tax credit for 6 months. This would provide $2.5 billion more in additional targeted support to the roughly 11 million individuals and families who already receive the tax credit, including about half of Canadian families with children and more than half of Canadian seniors. Single Canadians without children will receive an extra $234, and couples with 2 children will receive an extra $467 this year alone, and seniors would receive an extra $225 on average. The proposed extra GST credit amounts would be paid through the existing GST credit system as a one-time lump sum payment before the end of the year. And Madam Speaker, Bill C-31 would enact 2 important measures, the Canada Dental Benefit and a one-time top-up to the Canada Housing Benefit. The Canada Dental Benefit would be provided to families with income under $90,000 who do not have access to dental insurance starting this year. Direct payments totaling up to $1,300 over the next 2 years would be provided to cover dental care expenses for each child under 12 years old. Madam Speaker, This is the first stage of the federal government's plan to deliver dental coverage for families with adjusted net income under $90,000. And it will allow children under 12 to receive the dental care they need, while the government works to develop a comprehensive national dental care program. The one-time top-up to the Canada Housing Benefit would deliver a $500 payment to 1.8 million renters who are struggling with the cost of housing. This more than doubles the federal government's Budget 2022 commitment, reaching twice as many Canadians as initially promised. The federal benefit will be available to applicants with an adjusted net income below $35,000 for families or below $20,000 for individuals who pay at least 30% of their adjusted net income on rent. These pieces of legislation, Madam Speaker, represent the latest suite of measures to support Canadians with the rising cost of living. I am proud of how our federal government is being thoughtful and deliberate about how we are supporting Canadians who are most in need, while also being very conscious about not unleashing too much new spending so as to worsen current levels of inflation. Over the weekend, Madam Speaker, I had the pleasure of attending a number of events in my riding. I heard from many parents who were very anxious to have their daycare operator sign on to the federal national daycare plan so that they can be saving 50% of their costs per child by the end of this year. I also heard from low-income seniors who are really happy to hear about the dental care benefit. And while this year they will not benefit from it, as it is only available to children in households of $90,000 or less, and if they are under the age of 12, they are very excited about the prospect of being able to access it by the end of next year. It will be a lifeline for many. On the topic of housing, Madam Speaker, as it has been said many times in this House before, the federal government has made significant commitment in Budget 2022 to double the number of new homes that we will build over the next 10 years. The federal government, provinces and territories, cities and towns, the private sector and nonprofits are all pulling together to build the homes a growing country needs. Madam Speaker, the federal government's affordability plan is delivering targeted and fiscally responsible financial support to the Canadians who need it most, with particular emphasis on addressing the needs of low-income Canadians who are most exposed to inflation. Many of the most vulnerable Canadians are receiving more financial support now than they did last year, and they will continue to receive new support in the weeks and months to come. Now, I would be remiss to not thank the opposition for bringing up the subject of climate change. Climate action is an economic necessity, Madam Speaker. The global economy is changing. The future economic growth will be more and more dependent on clean energy. It is no longer up for debate that a national price on pollution is the most effective market incentive for climate action. And Canada's climate action incentive puts more money into the pockets of 8 out of 10 of every 10 families in Canada. Budget 2022 included climate action measures ranging from a new Canada Growth Fund that will help attract the investments we need to build a cleaner and more prosperous Canada, to an innovation and investment agency that will help our traditional industries thrive in a changing global economy, and our small businesses continue to grow and create good middle-class jobs. Madam Speaker, the federal government understands that many Canadians are struggling with the cost of living. The targeted support programs I've mentioned offer real help to the most vulnerable, are fiscally responsible, and will not further fuel inflation. In addition, we will continue to put a price on pollution. Our federal government will continue to urgently implement the many measures we have announced over the last almost 7 years, that we will ensure that we meet our Paris Accord targets and our net zero targets by 2050. Our ability to live, our quality of life, our future depends on us accelerating our fight against climate change and to not stop as the Conservatives are asking us to do. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Hear, hear.